Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 68 based on novel. So let's start. After creating Spirit Souls, Spirit Aistodor Huiyuhao managed to obtain an orange gold soul ring somehow, one that provided multiple soul skills from a vicious spirit soul. He was truly outstanding. Soul rings with special colors rarely appeared throughout history, and the legendary Huiyuhao and Tang San were the most prominent examples of people who possessed them. In light of this, even though Tang Wulin only had a single golden soul ring, it immediately attracted everyone's attention. After recovering from her surprise, the old lady furrowed her brows. "Your soul ring is quite unique. It doesn't seem to be made of soul power. I sense blood essence fluctuations coming from it, but your soul power is completely serene. Just what is going on?" "Honestly, I don't know either," Tang Wulin answered calmly. "I only know that my blood essence is very powerful. I think this ability came from my bloodline, but since it granted me a soul skill, it seems to be a type of soul ring." As Tang Wulin spoke, the golden ring lit up, and the roar of a dragon erupted from his body. His muscles swelled as a layer of golden light enveloped him. This is Golden Dragon Body? You have the Golden Dragon bloodline," the old lady sputtered. Her words stunned Tang Wulin. The name of the soul skill appeared in my mind, so how does this old lady know it? Has someone been in a situation like mine in the past? No. That's not possible. She said Golden Dragon, but what's sealed inside my body is the Golden Dragon King. They should be two different things. As his mind worked in overdrive to understand the situation, the old lady appeared in front of him in a flash. "Punch me." The old lady stared at him with profound, thoughtful eyes. "Punch you?" Tang Wulin hesitantly asked, clearly taken aback. Although he knew how mighty a Shrek Academy examiner had to be, the old lady before him looked as if she already had one foot in the grave. He doubted that she could take one of his punches. "My strength surpassed 500 kilograms long ago, but with Golden Dragon Body, I think it might be over 5,000 kilograms. Don't worry about me," the old lady said impatiently. "My old bones are quite tough. If you actually kill me, you can just immediately enter the Sea God's Pavilion." At her words, Tang Wulin sucked in a deep breath and said, "Please be careful then." And he threw a punch at her. Bang! Tang Wulin suddenly felt something strike his arm, instantly slapping his punch aside. "Have you not eaten yet?" the old lady barked in a scolding tone. "Use some strength." The people watching from the sidelines had clearly seen what happened. The moment Tang Wulin's scaled fist shot out, the old lady casually swatted it away as if it were a housefly. Their awareness of his strength only made this sight all the more shocking. Even if it wasn't a full power punch, Tang Wulin was still a dragon in human form. Yet, she simply. Realizing what had happened, Tang Wulin felt better about punching the old lady. He sucked in a deep breath, his belly seemingly inflating as a sharp whistling sound pierced in the air. His arms swelled with even more power than before, their golden scales shining brilliantly. With a loud grunt, he threw all of that power into an explosive punch directed at the old lady. However, this punch was different. A deafening boom rumbled through the room in the wake of his fist, even leaving a golden afterimage. Bang! His fist came to an abrupt halt in the old lady's palm. The old lady hadn't moved an inch and was just as expressionless as before. Tang Wulin felt as if he had struck a wall of rubber, all of his force instantly dissipating. This? Tang Wulin felt just as powerless as Xie had. She can actually take my punch without using her martial soul or soul power. She's crazy strong. "Is that all?" the old lady asked dryly. "You only this strong?" The disappointment in her eyes provoked his sense of pride. "I'm even stronger than this," he declared, preparing his fist once more. Golden tendrils of light danced about as it transformed into a golden dragon claw. With Golden Dragon Body activated, low rumbles could be heard radiating from his claw, as if its oppressive magnificence alone was enough to make the air tremble. Light flashed through the old lady's eyes. "Come," she said. Breathing in deeply, Tang Wulin hurled his third punch screaming outward. This time he held nothing back, pouring all his strength into this punch. Unlike the second punch, his blood howled as all of his blood essence converged on his right arm. The roar of a regal dragon filled the air as he punched. No sonic boom accompanied his fist this time because the air itself parted before its might. Although the old lady remained nearly as motionless as before, this time she threw a punch of her own. Xie Xie, Gu, and Xu Xiaoyan saw light warp around the old lady as 9 resplendent rings of light appeared. Before they could comprehend what was happening, the two fists met. Boom! Flying backward like an artillery shell, Tang Wulin struck the wall 20 meters behind him, embedding himself into it. The old lady remained where she had been standing, unmoving. After a moment, she returned to her seat at the table. Next. Captain Wulin. The members of Class 0 shouted in unison, immediately rushing to his side. I'm fine, Tang Wulin said with a cough. Debris tumbled from the wall as he extricated himself from it. This wall is really thick. Tang Wulin truly was fine. During the clash of their two fists, he felt as if he were punching a gigantic balloon. A simply overwhelming elastic force had sent him flying into the wall. His was more than tough enough to experience being embedded into the wall and walk away unscathed, but still, it wasn't a pleasant experience. Those 3 punches had depleted him of blood essence, and now his body felt weak. Gu helped him up. Are you sure you're okay? Tang Wulin nodded. Relax. I just need to rest for a moment and I'll be in prime condition. Actually, I guess I'm still a bit hungry. If I had a good meal right now, would my blood essence recover even faster? Too bad there isn't any food here. Preoccupied with Tang Wulin's condition, the students hadn't seen the looks of shock painted on the faces of Shen Yi and the other 2 examiners. Their jaws had dropped. Tang Wulin sat on the chair, took in a deep breath, and began using the mysterious heaven method to adjust his soul power and recover his blood essence. His breathing was still a bit rough as his eyes flitted toward the old lady, or lingering within them. Her strength is unfathomable. I don't think that even Teacher Wu could compare. Gu walked to the center of the room, her expression somewhat grim. She did not bow like her 3 classmates before her. Instead, she simply nodded. I'm beginning now. Shen Yi frowned. This was the first time someone ever dared act so haughty in front of a Shrek Academy examiner. The old lady narrowed her eyes and leaned back in her chair. Go on then. Gu's eyes sparkled as 3 soul rings appeared beneath her, 2 yellow and 1 purple. She flipped her hands to form the shape of a bowl with her palms, yellow light gathering in them a moment later. That yellow light was steady and gentle, the characteristics of the earth element. The earth element spun within her hands and gradually congealed into a physical form. Elemental control. So she's showing the strength of her spiritual power. The 3 examiners instantly came to the same conclusion. However, what happened next challenged their understanding. Gu took the ball of yellow light in her left hand, then began sculpting it with her right. Each soft touch of her fingers created a petal, until finally, she held a yellow flower with 9 petals. The 9-petaled flower spun slowly, its otherworldly nature a mesmerizing sight. The middle-aged man on the right gave a slight nod of approval. Elemental-type martial souls were rarely seen, and Gu's wealth of spiritual power and steadfast control over the element proved impressive. However, this still fell within the boundaries of what was considered normal. Gu suddenly reached out and grabbed the air, then slowly opened her hand to reveal sparkling specks of blue light. They began to multiply and merge together until a spherical blue light levitated above her palm. She's using the water element? Just like the earth element, Gu fashioned azure water element petals from the light ball and floated them above the yellow earth petals. There was 1 less water petal than earth petals, the 2 layers occasionally overlapping as they rotated in sync. Gu's 3 soul rings lit up in turn, each aiding her in a specific manner. Dual element control. What a remarkable martial soul. The 2 middle-aged examiners nodded in approval. But it didn't end there. Gu grabbed at the air again. Strands of green light winked into existence and flew in her hand. Wind element? The two middle-aged examiners leaned forward in anticipation. Dual-element soul masters existed in Shrek Academy, but a soul master that wielded 3 elements was unprecedented. More elements was not necessarily better. Soul rings usually only affected one element at a time, and it was difficult to control multiple elements as they exerted a greater influence on the body. In fact, it was impossible in theory for soul masters to wield so many. The green light transformed into a whirlpool in Gu's hand, condensing into a ball of the same color. It flew above the water petals before separating into 7 petals. She can actually manipulate 3 elements, and with such precision and harmony. What skillful control! Her spiritual power and comprehension of the elements must be deep. But this was still not the end. When Gu clutched at the air once more, the examiner on the right couldn't help but shoot out of his seat. Even Shen Yi's eyes widened in disbelief. She had witnessed Gu use multiple elements simultaneously before, but not to this degree. The air came alive as embers of red light gathered in Gu's palm. A blink later, a fireball stood in its place. Despite the telltale beads of sweat rolling down her forehead, her eyes were never lost their calm. The old lady leaned over slightly, cracks forming in her mask of indifference. 4 elements? She's actually controlling 4 elements. The difference between wielding 3 and 4 elements was an uncrossable canyon. The Doluor continent's soul masters all understood that everything was composed of elements. Moreover, earth, wind, water, and fire were the 4 fundamental elements that made up the world. For her to be capable of wielding these 4 elements, it meant she also possessed the power of creation. Shrek Academy had records of a 3-element soul master, but that person only reached the soul sage level before he was overwhelmed by the difficulty of balancing all 3 elements. Legends had it that should the 4 basic elements ever come into harmony, harnessing their immense power would become possible. And she was to wield all 4 elements in the entirety of Dulu continent history. Gu's performance won over all the examiners. The fire in her hand trembled as all 3 of her soul rings lit up. Not much of each element was used, but in order to give them each a concrete form, she needed to split her mind into 4 parts, paying attention to the equilibrium between elements. The relationships between earth and water, water and wind and fire strained her mental faculties, with each additional one increasing the burden exponentially. Yet, she managed to maintain this fragile balancing act. The fire congealed into 6 blazing petals, blossoming above the previous ones. The quad-colored flower slowly spun, a peculiar sight to behold. Not to mention the examiners, even the 3 people most familiar with Gu, the other students of Class 0, gaped at her display. Now that her elemental control was so great, she could unleash a 4-element fusion attack in battle. Of course, whether she'd have enough time to prepare one in battle was questionable, but the fact that it was possible was a testimony to her skill. The examiners knew that Gu had reached the Spirit Sea realm, otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to accomplish such a feat. Still, she was not finished. Gu clawed and grasped at the air for the 5th time. This time, even the old lady couldn't help but stand up. There's still more? The light beaming in through the windows became tiny golden specks, all converging in Gu's hand. However, she did not force them into petals, but instead, spun them around the 4-colored flower. I present this to you. She raised her head, shooting her gaze at the elderly lady like a laser beam. Suddenly, the flower vanished from her palm in a flash of silver light, reappearing before her target. Careful! Shani cried out in alarm. No longer controlled by a soul master, the 4 elements composing the flower descended into chaos and could explode at any moment. Gu was fully aware of this fact, but chose to do so through a grudge. She did not like that the woman had harmed Tang Wulin. The old lady's surprise quickly dissipated and she bent her lips into a smile, waving her arm, billowing sleeves trailing behind. A crescent moon appeared behind her, shining down upon the flower. 9 soul rings rose from beneath her. This time, the 4 students of Class 0 could make out their levels. 4 purple, 4 black, and 1 red. Power rolled off her body as the soul rings surrounded her. The moment the moonlight engulfed it, the flower froze in place, as if caught in a trance. Then, ever so slowly, it melted away. The elements returned to their origin. Ashes to ashes and dust to dust. 9 rings. She's a title d'honneur. It was Class Zero's turn to shoot out of their seats. All of the children trembled with shock. 9 rings. She's a 9-ring title d'honneur. Is that a legendary 100,000-year soul ring? Heavens! She has a 100,000-year soul ring. She's a title d'honneur. This Shrek Academy examiner is a title d'honneur. Their hearts were all thrown into pandemonium. Even the calm GUU had a lifeless look in her eyes. To annihilate a 4-element explosive flower in an instant, the same flower that took GUU 5 minutes and over 60% of her power to create, spoke volumes of the old lady's strength. She hadn't even used her full power. Good, good, good. A grin was plastered on the old lady's face as she turned to Shenyi. Shuasha did quite well to have me extend the exam period for these kids. This girl doesn't need to take the following trials. Let's have her directly enter the inner court. Even I can't help myself at the thought of a 6-element soul master. This has to be a first in the entire history of the continent. The old lady walked over to GUU and looked her up and down. Girl, do you want to become my disciple? She asked with a smile. Girl, do you want to become my disciple? She asked with a smile. GUU was taken aback, but immediately shook her head. I don't want to. You don't want to? The old lady was dumbstruck. Why? No reason. I just don't want to. GUU, don't speak like that. Shenyi quickly approached to reprimand her. Do you have any idea who this is? Elder CAI is an elder of Shrek Academy's most guarded sea gods pavilion. Her title is Silver Moon. She's the Silver Moon d'honneur that stands at the summit of the continent. You're lucky to have the chance to become her disciple. Obviously, none of the students were familiar with this esteemed old lady before. However, the mere mention of the Silver Moon d'honneur sent shivers down countless people's spines. 6 years ago, she had a reputation throughout the continent as a heaven-shaking eccentric, yielding to no one and always doing as she pleased. Her common rampages had flipped the entire Soul Master world upside down. Peace only returned to the continent when Shrek Academy dispatched people to retrieve her. Like so, she vanished without a trace from the public's eyes. GUU met Shenyi's eyes, but she gnawed at her lip, shaking her head again. She hit Wulin, so I don't want to be her disciple. Neither Elder CAI nor Shenyi had expected this to be GUU's problem. Her petulant behavior was actually fueled by Elder CAI's punch that had sent Tang Wulin flying. Disgruntled, Elder CAI said, "Nonsense. That kid's claw is special. If I hadn't used some strength to send him flying, his claw would have gripped my old bones and injured me. I didn't even harm him." The 2 middle-aged examiners were stunned at the elder's outburst. There's an apology hidden in her words. She's actually apologizing to a 13-year-old kid? GUU turned to face Tang Wulin. GUU, I'm fine. Really? Think about this carefully. The words tumbled out of Tang Wulin's mouth, clumsily and without grace. He understood how great an opportunity this was. GUU turned back to Elder CAI, her eyes earnest. Wherever they are, I will also be. We won't be separated. If they enter the inner court, then I'll enter too. Why are you such a handful? Fine, have it your way then. I don't care anymore. Elder CAI flicked her sleeve before storming off. Elder CAI's fury shocked Shenyi. A moment later, she quickly followed to explain on behalf of the students that Elder CAI would not have it. Tang Wulin approached GUU, tugging her arm. Why did you do that? Why did you let such an amazing chance slip away? Didn't you see how strong that Elder CAI is? She's a 9-ring title d'honneur. And her weakest soul ring is still at the 1,000-year level. She even has a 100,000-year red soul ring. Do you have any idea how rare people at her level are on this continent? I can't believe you turned down her offer. Guu met his gaze, the pools of her eyes swirling with honest intention. She hit you, so I'm not happy. These simple words put a lid on Tang Wulin's mouth. Meanwhile, Xie Xie and Xu Xiaoyan pulled strange faces. Xie Xie couldn't help but say, "You know, I always thought I was prideful, but now I know what true arrogance is." Guu, you're so awesome. Xu Xiaoyan laughed. Big sis Guu is so honest. Really? Tang Wulin sighed within his heart. Will this affect our exam? That elder CAI seems to be really influential in Shrek Academy. Is there anything good waiting for us now that we've offended her? Sure enough, Shenyi returned moments later with an ashen expression. She pointed a trembling finger at Guu. You? Who do you think you are? Do you know how many people dream of the chance to become Elder CAI's disciple? Guu remained silent, her head lowered. She had already given Tang Wulin her only explanation, there would be nothing else coming out of those lips. Anxious, Tang Wulin said, "I'm sorry, it was our fault. Guu is a bit tired right now, so she's not thinking properly. Teacher Shenyi, can we still continue with the exam?" Shenyi sighed. "Your exam should finish here, but you can all continue. I've notified teacher already, so hopefully he can placate Elder CAI's rage. Let's go now." In a quick shuffle, she led them out of the large hall and into the depths of the school building. The fifth trial tests your talent. Well, more like your second profession, Shenyi said. Xie Xie asked full of confidence, "Teacher Shen, how many points did we get for the fourth trial?" 0 points. You all got 0 points. Shenyi glared at him. 0 points? Isn't that too little? Even if we weren't amazing, shouldn't we still go some points? Or are you telling me Shrek Academy can't be impartial? Is this because we offended that elder CAI? Xie Xie nearly exploded on the spot when he heard their score. This was a major setback. Moreover, he felt that their performance had been quite spectacular. Shenyi swept a deep gaze at them. In Shrek Academy, the Sea God's Pavilion makes the rules. If Elder CAI says you get 0 points, then you get 0 points. No one can dispute it, not even another elder. And now that you've scored 0 points, you can't enter the inner court even if you're absolutely amazing in the later trials. Her eyes shifted to Guu. Do you understand the consequences of impulsiveness now? Guu did not retort, following Tang Wulin in silence. They soon arrived at another chamber. It was about the same size as the previous one, but there were tables spread out across this room, mountains of miscellaneous items littered all over. After surveying the room, Tang Wulin's eyes lit up. Among the many tables was one suited for blacksmithing. However, his elation was short-lasting. Sitting behind the examiner's table was a familiar figure. It was the elder who had stormed off in the previous trial. Elder CAI? She sneered at him when their eyes met. Elder CAI, you. Shenyi was at a loss for words. Elder CAI snorted. For the fifth trial, you all score 0 points. Rage bubbled to the surface of Guu's eyes at Elder CAI's words, but just as she was about to lash out, Tang Wulin pulled her behind him. Then, he directed a forceful look at Xie Xie to stop him from speaking out too. This was Shrek Academy, the home turf of Elder CAI. It would be pointless to argue against her here. Elder CAI, isn't this a bit too much? Shenyi made an expression of helplessness and surprise. Although Elder CAI was famed for being an eccentric, righteousness was not part of her character. In the years where she had been stirring up trouble across the continent, she had acted a bit too excessively. Otherwise Shrek Academy wouldn't have dispatched people to retrieve her. But her current conduct. Don't say I didn't give Shuasha any face. If they do well in the following trials, they will still be able to enter the inner court despite scoring 0 twice. If not, they can go back to where they came from. 0 points. We got 0 points again. Tang Wulin didn't know how many trials there were, but this was already their fifth one. The burden would be hard to overcome. Just what is the passing score? When Gu squirmed behind him, he restrained her with an iron grip. It would be stupid to infuriate Elder Cai any further. He suppressed his fury for the sake of the team. As the captain, he couldn't act first and think later. The future of his team depended on him. Xinyi's face twisted into a mask of ugliness and she didn't move until a while later. She knew that the entrance exam had 10 trials, each testing something different and awarding a maximum of 10 points. The highest score possible was 100 points, with 60 needed to enter the outer court. On the other hand, entry to the inner court required at least 85 points scored. Normally in every outer court entrance exam cycle, 1 or 2 outstanding individuals would make it into the inner court. It was a tremendous challenge to do so. Now that the students of Class 0 had lost 20 possible points, they had no choice but to score exceptionally in all of the following trials. However, these trials were no laughing matter. Shrek Academy's entrance exam was comprehensive. Although they had done well in the first 3 trials, that did not necessarily mean they would be as lucky in the rest. The upcoming trials all tested different aspects of their ability, not just their combat strength. Xinyi did not criticize Gu. There was no point in doing that now. Elder Cai left, slamming the door shut behind her. Unseen by everyone present though, a smile had formed on her lips. Hee hee. I bet that old Fartwisher is fuming right about now. Serves him right. Those brats are pretty good, tempering them a bit more should be fine. She snorted at the thought of Gu. Since you dare to reject me, there will be a time when you come back begging. She crossed her arms behind her back, her steps light as air as she departed. Sun with rays. Aggrieved and indignant, Class 0 arrived at the site of the 6th trial. The 6th trial was truly strange. It tested their capacity to eat. That's right, it was a trial of eating. In front of every person was a giant silver tray, and on top of that tray was a mountain of steamed buns. To one side was a sign that listed the requirements to receive points. It said that eating 15 buns was a passing score and for every additional 5 buns eaten, another point would be rewarded. However, they weren't permitted to circulate their soul power while eating and could only rely on their own stomachs. They were stupefied by this trial's rules. Both Xu Xiaoyon's and Xie Xie's eyes shifted to Tang Wulin. Something flickered beneath Tang Wulin's calm mask as he turned to Xinyi and asked, Teacher Shen, can we help each other eat for this trial? Still depressed, Xinyi grumpily replied, if you can eat enough to score full points, then you can help the others. This trial was truly strange, but then again, this was expected from an academy as monstrous as Shrek. In truth, what this trial tested was willpower. They had to eat until their stomachs burst. For a normal 15-year-old, 15 steamed buns was an enormous amount of food. Furthermore, by restricting the use of soul power to aid digestion, it was almost impossible for most people to finish. One would need willpower to overcome one's bodily limits. Of course, there were medical staff supervising this trial to ensure that the examinees wouldn't become sick from overeating. The sturdier than normal bodies of soul masters prevented their stomachs from exploding, but that didn't mean they couldn't fall ill from overeating. This seemingly simple trial was, in fact, a devil in disguise, innocently dragging examinees through the depths of hell and making them wish for the sweet release of death. However, today an irregularity had appeared. Thank you, Teacher Shen, Tang Wulin said sincerely. In his mind, this trial was practically made for him. He reached out his hands, picking up 2 buns in each. The steamed buns were soft and bouncy, their round fullness delighting him even as his stomach rumbled from the delicious aroma of buns assaulting his nose. Though Gu had given him food in the morning, it was a meager portion and barely able to fill his stomach. This, coupled with him using up his blood essence in a series of trials, meant that he was starving. The sudden appearance of food in this trial was the most beautiful scene he had ever witnessed. Tang Wulin devoured each bun in 3 bites and an instant later, 4 buns had already been demolished. Hearing Tang Wulin could eat on their behalf, Xie relaxed, placing his hands behind his head and leaning back in his chair as he leisurely waited. Xu Xiaoyan was a bit more reasonable, sitting down cross-legged to meditate. Gu was the only one who picked up a bun to accompany Tang Wulin in his meal. Shenyi frowned. What are those two doing? Why aren't they starting? You only have 30 minutes for this trial. However many you have eaten at the end of the 30 minutes will go into your score calculation. Xie smiled. Teacher Shen, just wait and see. In the few seconds they had conversed, 8 buns had already vanished into Tang Wulin's stomach. He let out a gentle sigh as he patted it. I feel a lot better now with some food in my belly. The reason why Tang Wulin could eat so much was that his bloodline consumed a lot of energy. This, when combined with his digestive ability, meant that his stomach's capacity was 10 times that of an ordinary person's. Those 8 buns had instantly broken down into nutrients to replenish his starved body. Thinking he was feeling unwell, Shenyi said, eat slower. It doesn't matter how fast you can eat as long as you can eat enough for this trial. If you eat too quickly, your digestion will slow down and later affect how. Before she could even finish her sentence, Tang Wulin had snatched another 4 steamed buns and stuffed 2 of them down with ease. Xie smirked. Teacher Shen, you don't need to worry about our captain. His greatest strength isn't his combat ability, but his stomach. He managed to eat our dining hall into poverty, so what are a few steamed buns to him? His words rang true. The first window at East Sea Academy served nutritious food, but that came at a steep price. Even then, Tang Wulin's stomach had only been satisfied because the higher quality of food had made up for the lower quality. And the steamed buns before them were just average buns, their nutritional content negligible. Shenyi then witnessed what it truly meant for one to be called a rice bucket, no, a rice tub. Tang Wulin calculated as he ate. If 15 buns equaled 6 points and 20 was 7 points, then he needed to eat 35 of the 50 buns on the tray to get a full score. No more than 8 minutes from the start of the trial, Tang Wulin had already inhaled 35 steamed buns while Gu had only eaten about 4 or 5. Tang Wulin sauntered over to Xu Xiaoyon's tray and, as if his previous record was just a warm-up, he devoured 35 buns in 7 minutes. Then, he went over to Xie. Shenyi was merely surprised at first, but her expression soon changed to shock, then dumbfoundedness, and finally, stupefaction. 22 minutes in, he finished eating 35 buns for Xie too. He had eaten a total of 105 steamed buns now, but his belly hadn't bulged one bit. Shenyi was certain that they weren't using any soul power at all, which only served to deepen her and the other examiner's shock. In all his long years of supervising this trial, that examiner had never seen such a glutton. Tang Wulin finally came to Gu's table. She stood up and gave him her seat and began handing him buns as Tang Wulin continued gorging himself. The speed at which Gu handed him the steamed buns could only just keep up with the rate they disappeared into his belly. At the 28-minute mark, he finished 35 buns for Gu. However, he showed no signs of slowing down. Time is up. The stupefied examiner just barely remembered to call the time. He had eaten 48 of the 50 buns on Gu's tray, leaving only a lonely pair. How can he do this? Tang Wulin patted his belly, still wishing to continue. Teacher Shen, we got full marks, right? Shenyi nodded and immediately turned to leave. A monster. He really has the potential of a monster. Was he always such a monster? Is his stomach a bottomless pit? Teacher Shen, can I take the leftover steamed buns with me? I didn't eat breakfast this morning. Shenyi stumbled. She waved her hand, indicating for him to do as he wished. Tang Wulin showed no restraint and swept all the leftover buns into a few bags, then stored them in his storage ring. Only then did he follow behind Shenyi with a content smile plastered on his face. After a half-hour's rest and a good meal, his blood essence was nearly fully replenished. Unfortunately, the steamed buns weren't that nutritious, otherwise his condition would be perfect. Sun with rays. All forgot full points for the 6th trial. Elder Cai currently sat in a luxurious room, her face contorting into a strange expression as she listened to the report from the middle-aged man in front of her. Yes, they got full marks. It was reported that they even took the leftover buns. It seems the majority was eaten by Tang Wulin. This video will end here.